Hello and welcome to the Real Life Show, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jonathan. This is a platform where we get to engage, interact, learn from icons, gurus, moguls, trendsetters, trailblazers, difference makers, world changers. You know what I'm talking about. Today is a different day because I'm speaking to a man who is an embodiment of history, knowledge, and wisdom, right? Financial literacy advisor, author, businessman. I don't know if he's a banker or former banker. We'll get into that. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm simply talking about Mr. Lloyd Mwinga. Mr. Lloyd, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. Excited for this show.
Great stuff. Great stuff. How are you doing, boss?
Doing great. Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Safe to say there's been a lot of growth actually in this program.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't see it and maybe people don't want to tell you.
Okay.
But it's all over the globe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's great stuff. I think growth way beyond just the numerical, I think followership, even more so the depth of content. So well done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything mysterious about that hair?
This hair was something that started as a revolution, but then I can't go into details now. But the long and short of it all is that I think I've gotten to see that there's something emancipatory about an afro. If you check all the history makers, from Kenneth Kaunda, Kwame Nkrumah, all the guys that went before us actually kept an afro. No, I'm just joking, but
I need to know, maybe the missing link is my hair. I need
probably try it. I think there's just something about hair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you still a banker or you're a former banker?
Well, now...
Or is once a teacher, always a teacher? Does that apply to banking?
I think it feels nice to say a former banker. At least it gives a bit of some authority in that space. Yeah.
Okay. Why did you go into banking?
Why did I go into banking? It's an interesting story. First of all, it's not anything that I'd planned for. I should say it just happened by mere coincidence. I think many years ago, actually 18 years ago. Yeah, 18 years ago, that's when I joined the banking sector. It was just a case where I was told, oh, there's a vacancy at this particular bank. Please apply if you would want to take up that opportunity as well. So I did apply. There were a number of us, and I was, of course, a novice, clueless, had never been in any professional space. But then I was like, well, let me give it a shot. I went for the interviews, shortlisted, and wow, that's how my journey into banking went. And interestingly, I've just been in the banking sector after that. So I worked with one particular bank. Then after 5 years, I joined another bank, which actually stretched for about 13 years. Yeah, and then after that, I was like, okay, let me just see what else is there in the world. Yeah.
Great stuff. So before joining banking, what did you study?
So I did accounts. I'm an accountant, and I did a lot of other courses. Actually, so after doing my accounts, I started working, and then I started doing different other courses. Some unrelated to banking, others were related to banking, slightly, of course, like a bachelor's in entrepreneurship and many other courses. And more so, did some trainings in financial literacy and got that certificate from under Securities Exchange Commission, of course, certified as an investments advisor. So there's been a lot happening. I've been doing law on one end and many other things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to understand something here because you look like a man on a mission, driven by purpose.
Yeah.
At what point in your life did that force find you? Because you wrote Take Me to Kaunda while you were still in employment. Talk to me about the meeting of divine purpose and you being in employment.
Here's the thing. I think from the word go, what I got to learn was the fact that I think we ought to discover why we came. I think that's the biggest question everybody has to answer. And for me, I get to realize that we are all capable of doing many things. So I deliberately talked about that because in my journey, I've done quite a number of things. I've been in the music space before. I've done albums before. I've
Singing?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I've done that and many other things along the way. But here's the thing, I got to discover that in life, I think we are all capable of doing many things.
I like that.
But that is not the drive. The drive is to discover why you came.
Yeah.
If we were to follow everything that we are capable of doing, then we'll be all over the place. So I began to zero in into my niche and asking the bigger question, why did I come? What problem did I come to solve? Why am I here on earth? And so the moment you get to zero in into that question, you begin to align your life. And so you begin to pack your bags based on where you are going and not where you are. So you structure yourself, posture yourself, brand yourself, position yourself in life based on where you know you are supposed to go. So there's a certain limitation in terms of what you'd want now to do, in as much as you can do it.
Yeah.
And so the bigger answer to that is really, why did you come? Because everybody else can do many things.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be the drive. Just because you can sing doesn't mean you should sing. So the question is, what should you do? And you answer that question, then you are set to, fulfill your purpose.
This is now sounding like it's going to be a long conversation because I have a lot of follow-up questions on that.
Yeah.
How did you know why you came?
Interesting. So there are many things that get to regulate and get to direct you in that regard. There's always an inner voice in you. You even know there are certain things that you do. Some things actually you score so highly in them, but there's no fulfillment in that. So the longer question around, for example, what people get to define as success is not really success, because people would define it from the context of what you've accumulated.
Yeah.
It could be in material form, a monetary sense, or maybe influence in terms of the followership that you have, and the like.
Or education.
Exactly, but the question is, that is not the true definition of success. The true definition of success is really fulfillment. There are certain things
purpose.
that, absolutely, there are certain things that after you do it, you even feel your heart settled, like, okay,
Feel like I'm
this is
alive
it.
now. I'm
Yeah,
living.
that this is it, and all that. And so, one of the people that I get to respect so much, Galamukani, once said, we get to try so many things, and so as a young person, just keep trying, because one day it will click. You just find yourself in a place where something just gets to click, and then you say, this is it.
Yeah.
So you get to discover that by, there's always the inner voice that tells you that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the inner voice spoke to you, and
Many years ago. I knew why I came a long time ago.
okay.
Yeah.
How did you manage to balance work and your own personal businesses?
Many years ago, one of my first managers actually did influence the way I thought and programmed myself for life. Like I said, when I joined the bank, I was very, very young and clueless, with nothing on me in terms of, accomplishments in the professional world. But what he graciously handed to us were opportunities to be with him. So sometimes he would get us over weekends, he would show us some things that he's doing. Sometimes he'd connect us to his friends. And each time he would introduce us to some of his colleagues, for example, he would introduce, like me, would say, okay, meet my friend Lloyd, meet my friend, you get it. But then this is somebody who ideally is in a different, league compared to mine. But he was so gracious enough to do that. But then more so, I saw the aggression with which he actually worked on improving himself. So the bigger question I asked myself was, if my boss, the manager, can be this aggressive in terms of trying to build himself, what about me who has nothing to show for? So what should be my energy? So through that, I began to deliberately work on an agenda of, upskilling myself, growing myself, trying many things, doing this business, doing that business. Some of them fail, some succeed, but in doing so, it was actually, directing me into the bigger picture of what I ultimately wanted to become. So for me, that is one of the privileges that I point at, that having had that particular boss who showed me from the onset.
Do I know who this person is?
Not so sure. Well, he is Mr. Tembo, Bisalom Tembo. Yeah, He was at the first bank that I worked for.
Okay, which bank was that?
That was, by then it was called Finance Bank.
Okay, it's now Atlas Mara, right?
Now I think it's Atlas Mara. I think there was some mergers and all those things that happened in the space. So it's Atlas Mara. So basically that's that. And in fact, through him, I remember this one time, because he was busy this one time he gets to invite me to say, look, there's this event I'm supposed to go for, but I want you to go and represent me. So it was Cabo Chamber of Commerce meeting, and so I went, and after representing him, then he was like, I think you can do this. So I went again. So through those meetings, I actually got elected as the treasurer for Cabo Chamber of Commerce. I was very, very young then, but that gave me an experience to interact with the professional world, both in the business sense as well as just in the open space. So yeah, for me, that was the kickstart of everything that aligned with whatever I wanted to become.
What would you say are the key tools that you picked up from the corporate world or the professional space of banking that you are using right now, even in your space?
Well, in the banking space, one of the things, for example, is I think the aspect of accountability, diligence, and just being on point with everything that you do, and more so being accountable. I think that those things have really been helpful. Yeah.
I heard that you resigned.
Yes, I did. Eventually, I had to. I think it's something that was bound to happen.
Why did you resign?
Why did I resign? So the question goes back now to why did I come? Yeah. The banking space is a very beautiful space, and I'm actually grateful for the journey that I actually undertook in that space. But more so, there just came a time where you get to realize that there's more that one can get to do. There are certain things that you can actually jump on and utilize the very skills that you would have left. I'm happy to say that I left in a very good way. There was nothing.
There was nothing like, no, my boss Shani.
No, nothing whatsoever.
No issues.
Actually, no, zero issues. And that had been my dream. Of course, the banking space is a very, very complex space, but sometimes you pay for the sins that you did not commit. Simply because you are probably in charge of the particular space, and so if something goes wrong, you pay for that. And that's how come a lot of bankers actually are stressed and all those things because of that. And it's just the way things are. Yeah, but it was a good thing, and even by the time I was leaving, it was a beautiful experience. Even had sent a message to the wonderful CEO Biden. I had to inform him and all that. Beautiful experience.
I personally was touched because you left and you couldn't even tell me.
Now the cat is outside, is off the basket. Yeah, so there was a lot actually that was happening the time I was leaving. I think I had a lot of engagements around that specific time. I tried to pass through to say, actually I passed through a number of spaces just to say bye and all that. You must have been absent on that particular occasion. Yeah.
I'm always in the space.
Yeah.
How do you look at the future of... I know you have a lot to say about the banking industry. I wouldn't love us to dwell on that.
Yeah.
I want us to take a different direction. But in a nutshell, for someone who's looking up to become a banker, how do you see the future of banking?
Well, it's interesting because a number of people look at maybe these careers, regardless of what space it is, using different lenses. There are some that would want to go into it because maybe the pay grade is good, maybe they'll get a good salary and all that.
They should ask.
So So the motivation really, again, zeroes back to what you really want to do in that space. So for me, it's got more to do with what you're going to offer than what you're going to take out of that space.
Yeah.
Because life is about all that you give and not what you take. Because with what you give, then value will be added on you. So for me, that should be the drive. So whatever space one wants to go into, the question is, what do you want to add to that industry? And talking about the industry at large, there's a lot of change, obviously, that is going to come. There's a lot of innovation. There's all these different, kinds of things that are going to come to play. There are a lot of conversations right now going on with the central bank, regulators, and all that, different things they're trying to see how they can regulate that space as well. So definitely there's going to be a lot of change, but for anybody who wants to go into that space, the bigger question is, what do you want to go and do there? What do you want to contribute? What value are you going to place in that particular space?
When is the right time to leave employment?
When is the right time to leave employment? I think the right time should be leaving at the right time. So there has to be a place where you feel you have not outlived your relevance in that space. I think it just comes to play. But more so, I get to talk now. I balance this off with my side, which is being an investments advisor, financial literacy advocate, and the like. I would advise that somebody plans. I've been thinking and planning for a very long time. I had to plan my way. I told myself, if I was to leave now, how long will it take for me to live this kind of life without having that pay coming my way? So I already projected for a particular period of time to say, assuming I don't receive any money from any source, I should be able to live on whatever I have saved, invested, or whatever I'm doing for the next couple of months, years, or that. So that should be the bigger question, really. Because what you don't want to do again is to leave and then you begin to panic.
Yeah.
You know, I'll give you an example. I was telling my wife at some point when we were having this conversation to say, I will not adjust the kind of life that we are living right now. I don't want to feel as though now I'm suffering simply because I've left employment and say, okay, let's stop this, or let's not watch DSTV, or let's not do this, assuming we watch DSTV. Let's not, pay for what's this internet subscription. Let's not do this. The day that you begin to panic is the day that you begin to now frustrate your ability to be innovative and creative. And money and panic don't go together. The moment you just switch on that space, then you are in trouble. You begin to find yourself making decisions that are not, planned, that are not structured, and you begin to, make decisions that are hopeful but not reasonable. You see people trying to say, okay, let me see how I can multiply 100 kwacha and make 300 kwacha in 2 days. And you quickly rush into that because now you're trying to find a survival mode. And when you go into that space, it becomes very, very dangerous. So you have to be rational, you have to think, you have to project yourself and ask yourself the bigger question, what if money doesn't come my way in the next 6 months? What will happen?
So I've got 2 questions. Looks like I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Number 1, how much were you making outside employment before you left? Because you're talking about planning. This is something that you saw, because I saw how you close these big deals even while you're in employment. I want to understand this planning of yours. How much were you making just before you left that gave you the confidence to leave and you didn't care about the salary that was coming every month?
Here's the thing again. So in terms of monetary value, I wouldn't say that openly, but it was safe to say I was making more out than
Times what of your salary?
Well, it was in multiples. We'll use exponential rules for us to come up with that, really. But either way, because here's the thing. Now, because if I was to bring that in perspective, people might think maybe he left because he's doing far much better out there than he was in the business. No. The concept that, for example, I talk about when we zero in into financial literacy and all that, has everything to do with, multiple streams of income. How do you now get to leverage on what you can do to earn more? And when we talk about multiple streams, we are now talking about you doing different things, but using the very skill that you have, but in multiple ways. And so one of the things that I was sharpening on was, my art of communication, my art of, empathy, and just trying to help out people. Because I would tell you that most of the contracts that I would get out there was because somebody said something good about me somewhere. And in most cases, it would be somebody I wouldn't even know. So when they tell me, this person told us that you're able to do this. This person told me that you do coaching in this. This person told me that you do leadership trainings, you do these trainings, you do that kind of trainings. So we want you to come and do this. And like, oh, okay. And then I begin to think, who is this person is? I can't even remember the person. And so it was through all those connections that in most cases I would get to have all those opportunities out there. But, the long and short of it all was the motivation really wasn't because there was more outside than it was more to do with, I know why I came. Maybe this is the time to answer that, that question, why did I come? So I go into that space that now fits the shoe that I'm supposed to wear.
Let's talk about personal development. Why is it, you are an advocate of personal development.
Absolutely.
Why is it important for people to journey on that road of personal development?
So I'm very passionate about that space because a lot of people get to wander away with a lot of potential and never actualizing it. So personal development gives you a sense of awareness of what more can become of you. And one of the biggest laws I want to advocate this year probably is the law of location. And probably that is one of the things that now gets to answer why I could have left, why and all that. Because the law of location would tell you that in as much as you would want to do so much, there are certain environments that might not permit you to become what you want to become.
I was listening to that a few days ago. Yeah.
So you ought to position yourself in a place where you break certain boundaries. I was telling some people that, try as much as you can to move out of your comfort zones. If you can, fly out of the country. If you cannot fly out of the country, say across the oceans, move to a neighboring country just to visit. If you cannot do that, at least provincial. Move from, if it's Lusaka, visit Copperbelt, do that. If it's not provincial, even just towns, move from this town to the next town. Why? Because you see, a person by design is influenced by mostly what they see. What you get to be exposed to gets to regulate what you become in life. So some of the aspirations that most of us get to have are by reason of location, because we've been in the same environment for too long, and we begin to think this is all there is. Now, personal development gets to cut off that. People say, thinking outside the box. I talk about getting rid of the box. The box is not even necessary.
Kick the box.
So you have to be deliberate in terms of what you want to become. And I believe I'm so much an advocate of the fact that there's nobody that was designed to just experience the bad life. There's a place for each and every one of us to experience the good life, and we have to be deliberate to attempt to live that good life. And you can only do that if you stretch yourself, try out different things, expose yourself to new information, read as much as you can, talk to people, listen to conversations, think through whatever you want to become. See places. If you cannot visit physically, now we've got Google. Visit places using Google. Just check out this place. Look at how people think. Look at how empires are built. Through that, you begin to structure your life and you begin to live beyond the limitations of what the local confinements might expose you to. So for me, personal development really is an agenda that tells us that there's more to life than what we actually see. We can keep improving every day.
What did you do yourself to build yourself to the Lloyd that you are right now?
For me, it's been books mainly. Books, and then getting to learn from those that have gone ahead of us. The book that you touched on, the book I wrote, Take Me to Kaunda, actually was an introduction to how I postured myself in terms of what I can become and who I can relate with and all that. Because I got to realize that there are certain things that I may never do as intelligent as I am. There are certain things that you will never study as intelligent as you are. So for example, in as much as you may be as good, as intelligent, as gifted as you are, you may not study medicine. Why? Because you don't have the luxury to do so.
Yeah.
And so you're already in a particular field. So what do? If you've got a challenge that needs medical attention, you go to a medical practitioner. You sit with a medical practitioner. The medical practitioner will save you 7 years. So instead of going to a uni to study for 7 years to deal with a headache that you have,
Yeah.
you sit with a medical practitioner for 7 minutes. They'll tell you, just drink water and everything will be sorted. So that is the science behind getting to, what others call riding on the shoulders of giants. There are people that have gone ahead of us. And so for me, I've taken advantage of that. And I've tried as much as possible to reach out, to learn from them. And then more so books. I've been collecting and reading books for a very long time, because whatever I want to learn from an individual, I can find in the book that they've written. So I get to pick their minds from that. How do they think? How do they, posture themselves? How do they face challenges? What challenges did they meet? How did they overcome, and all that. So for me, that has been the drive, really. Those two.
I would like you to recommend some books for someone who says, I'm interested in that personal development thing that you're talking about. What books can I start with for now?
Being a financial literacy advocate, trainer, and tutor, I'm very, very loud on a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. So it's a book that talks about wealth, the science of it, and to people that may be listening, the summary of The Richest Man in Babylon is simply this. It says, for whatever amount of wealth you do not experience yet, so I'm paraphrasing, it could be just two reasons why you are not as rich as you want to be. Reason number one is because you may not know the rules or laws responsible for wealth creation. Reason number two is because you may know the rules and don't apply them. So these particular two are actually the heartbeat of that of the book itself, The Richest Man in Babylon. So if we're talking about wealth and everything, and for personal development actually, or rather personal finance management, I think it sums up all the principles that are there around wealth, because it talks about the accumulation of wealth, the multiplication of wealth, as well as how you get to ensure that particular wealth. Then I would also recommend Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, so I think for now, those two. Let me recommend those two.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many books do you read in a month?
Back then, depending on the size of books, back then I used to read 4 books. If they were like at least 200-page books, I would manage to read 4 books a month. Now it's gone down a bit, because now I don't really read a book in context. Sometimes I go for particular topics within the book. So I would maybe have different books, but then read specific chapters in those books that are related, just to balance off information. Yeah, but still maintaining that journey of reading. But in terms of buying, I buy a minimum of 4 books every month. That has been my journey since 2017.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mr. Felix Banda, Galamukani.
Yeah.
One man that I think impacted my life. I met him once, by the way. Yeah, I met him with Lloyd just once.
Okay.
But obviously, I've been impacted by, what he's been doing through his books and social media platforms and all those things. You are one of the people that were very close to him. Who was Galamukani to you?
Yeah, like in writing about him, one of the things that I did mention was, Galamukani was such a kind-hearted man that his liberality and in terms of how he accommodated everybody would make you feel and think that you are the closest to him.
Yeah,
but he was so generous to everybody that everybody felt that way. For me, Galamukani was beyond a motivational speaker. I actually used to say it loudly that Galamukani was motivation itself. And there will never be another Galamukani. There's a place where we get to think, okay, after this one has passed, it's now this generation to take up the mantle. There's just a way that he ran with that. But more so, he taught me, the courage to run and to give it all, to give life your best shot. Even with where he had reached, he was so out there, and then more so giving everything that he had acquired over the years just to impact generations and all. He was beyond a mentor. He was a great man.
What would you say? Because I know there are certain assignments that he had he couldn't make it, and he would assign you to go and undertake those tasks, right?
Yeah.
What placed you in that position?
You know, one time, actually, my first meeting with Galamukani was on his birthday. So a friend of mine spoke to him about me. And so on his birthday, he said, okay, I'll have lunch with you on my birthday. I was like, oh, wow. So we had that lunch with him. And then after we were done, he was like, Lloyd mlungana kudadisa nanzelu. You know, like, yeah, he said it that way. And one of the things that he did after that, you know, like he'd be invited. I remember one time he was invited to go and feature on a particular program at ZNBC. Then he told them, invite this gentleman, he's going to do a far better job than me. Wow. Then he calls me to say, they will call you at ZNBC. You go and appear on this particular program. I've already told them about you. And for me, I was like, oh, wow, like he's giving me this opportunity to go and shine. And I really was graced in having participated within his space in that, to a point like for every event that he would have, I would always show up just to help, to do this and that. And more so, he was very gracious enough to attend whenever I asked that he gets to attend my events to speak, because I do a lot of coachings for young people especially. So he would always show up. Some of the events that I would have would be even like in far places. I remember in Ndola, he traveled all the way to Ndola to come and speak in one of the events that I was hosting there. So a very, very generous man.
Do you think you've picked his mantle?
That would be too big a call for me. I think what I can sum it up is he made us open up to the fact that we should give life our very best. And so for me, that is what I'm grateful for. I can never compare to him. He was far up there. He was far up there. But then he taught us to actually, you know, get the best out of ourselves. And it's for this reason that even my transitioning from the banking sector, I think you may have seen what he had written and all that. Yeah, so I would have all those conversations with him and all that, and well, he really helped me see more to life, and then he was very generous in opening his door actually for me. I even said it openly that I never needed a key to get to where he was. The door was always rather open for me, and so yeah, it was a very beautiful experience, and I'm grateful that I did have to meet a man like him. Yeah,
great stuff. You are running a movement of possibility thinkers, possibility practitioners. What is that all about? Can you give us more details about that?
So possibility practitioners was birthed out of an experience. Sometimes I get to say it was a wake-up call. One time we traveled to Dubai, 2014 in particular. When we traveled to Dubai, we saw what happened in Dubai, how it transformed from a desert city into the city that it is today. One of the things that actually changed my perspective around what we can do to our Zambia was, visiting the museum to just get to learn how they think, how they plan, how did they get to the Dubai that it is today. And so when I came back home, I was like, okay, those guys practice possibility, because I saw everything they could do. And one of the very, very tough conversations I had was with a political player, and I said it before them openly. I asked them, like, you people visit these places, you visit Dubai, you visit Singapore, and they're like, and then you come back home like everything is okay, like everything is all right, nothing happens to you. And so for me, possibility practitioners is a wake-up call to say, look, there's no way we can live in the same generation, same times as the guys in Singapore, the guys in Dubai, you know, and all the developed worlds, and yet we live life the way we are living, and they are living lives as though they are 1,000 years ahead of us. There is a sense in which we ought to wake up and begin to act our own possibilities and then actualize and beautify our own country. We cannot just live as though we were just passing through. No ways. The question again begs to be answered. Why did we come then? So why are we here if we'll just live the way we came? Yeah.
So is that an organization, and what's the direction? What's happening there? I saw a graduation. And
yeah. So yeah, so we
Under
were
30 mentorship.
yeah. So
classes.
we had what we were calling the 30 under 30 mentorship class, and it was it catered for 4 major aspects. So there was public speaking, there was entrepreneurship, there was personal finance management, and then leadership. And so these different aspects were what the young people were being coached into. It was dubbed 30 under 30, but we had over 260 actually young people who were in that particular class. So from August last year all the way up to December, the class was running. So we brought in different mentors. We brought in even certain sections of society, like the Drug Enforcement Commission came through just to speak to people, because we were talking about we were actually amplifying the fact that there's, legitimate, wealth is possible. So that is the balance that we're getting to put in place, because there's a sense in which some people feel like, having too much money, and then they begin to follow you, they begin to do that. Yeah. So so that's that. So the heart of it all is, let's impact as many people as possible at a go, so that we can grow and develop as fast as we can. So it's more of a mentorship academy. We do leadership trainings for corporates as well as individuals. So different things, mostly in those: personal mastery, personal finance management, entrepreneurship, leadership.
Okay. Mr. Lloyd, time won't allow me to just go through all these things that I prepared for you, but I want to be having you regularly.
Okay.
Just for us to touch on, we have a knowledge deficit. So we need you to just touch on a lot of issues, especially concerning financial literacy. Yeah. Because I've seen, I think you've been very outspeaking on radio programs and TV programs concerning the power of, financial literacy, just the knowledge of it. Yeah. In conclusion, just tell us why we need to be knowledgeable about money.
First of all, we ought to appreciate the history of money. And so when I talk about money, I talk about it from the context of not what your bank account shows. A lot of people are under pressure trying to see how healthy the bank account will look like and what is showing. But, money is not necessarily what the account shows. So in the perspective of an individual, so if you're talking about the money that you have, the money that you have is not the salary that you earn. The money that you have is what you've built in yourself that causes that money to show up. So if any individual can get to tap into that, look, how you get your salary is because you've developed yourself in such a way that the institution believes because of what you have, we can exchange in that. And that is the science and history of money. We had what we used to call, the barter system back then. What used to happen? It was a goat. You give out a goat, they give you 5 chickens. Or you give 5 goats, they give you a cow. So what does it mean? It means there's something that you are giving out for you to earn something. And that should be the focus for every individual out there. Before you think about the 1 million kwacha that you want to have in your account, the question is, have you built capacity in you to contain that? Because with a lot of people, that's how come you find somebody earns the 1 million for whatever they may have done, maybe a once-off due. After that 1 million, there's a regulator within their system, like it's an auto system within them that causes them to live a 10,000 kwacha kind of life. So everything above that gets wiped out because they haven't built that capacity within them. So we talk about money from the context of what have you done to yourself? How have you built yourself to a point where when 10,000 kwacha comes, it multiplies. When 1 million kwacha comes, it multiplies. We don't want a situation where when 1 million kwacha comes, the auto-regulator brings you back to default settings of 10,000 kwacha. So that is the basis with which we talk about money. So we are not even moved by what is showing currently, because a lot of people are under pressure when they see, my bank account only has 20 kwacha. The question is, do you have that inner magnet that causes money to come your direction?
Lloyd Kates Mwinga. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how we do on the Real Life Show. We bring you the best that you need and the best that you deserve. You'll be seeing this man from time to time. Do you have any last words?
Well, the last words is we are all capable of becoming whatever we want to become in this life. It's never too late. So regardless of what you'd have gone through, what your situation tells, whatever it is that maybe they may have said or spoken about you, or maybe the results actually indicate that you may have failed, here is the thing: you can start at any time and begin to build your life. There's more ahead of us, and who knows, we get to meet at the top.
At the top. We'll meet at the top. Ladies and gentlemen, we out. See you in the next episode. God bless you. Peace.